Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991. From the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched Money. This is John, and thank you for joining us on 1991 Movie Rewind. Money tells the story of Frank Cimballi, played by Eric Stoltz, who was orphaned at a young age and had been living off an unknown benefactor. Shortly after being cut off, he is given a strange letter stating that his parents were worth $50 million and he is being robbed. Frank hires a private detective and sets off on a mission of financial revenge. Screenplay by Larry Pederson and Gordon Roback, directed by Stephen Hilliard Stern, and released on April 17th, 1991. You have not seen Money before.
No.
Yeah, this I don't know how.
It looks like it was released in France and Canada.
Yeah, I don't know how widespread it is in America, if at all.
This is like millions.
It has a Millions vibe to it, but it's really tough to say which one's better.
I like Millions more, to be honest.
There's certain aspects of Millions that I liked better, and then there's certain aspects of this that I like better, and they're kind of competing against each other. There is a DVD release of this, but I could not find proof that there was a US VHS copy. So when this hit, I think, it was largely France and Canada, and then later down the line, because of the star power of it, someone said, hey, let's push it out the door when everything was starting to get converted to DVD. Mm-hmm. So that's really the only official way to watch it, but it is available on YouTube, which is where we saw it. It's an interesting movie because it is very much like Millions, except it had more of the business moves that I was kind of looking for from Millions.
Yeah.
But not really done very well in this. A lot of the business moves that they were going through, it didn't really have the intrigue cat and mouse feel that I was hoping for, what the movie seemed like it was trying to achieve. Yeah. It was more, I don't know, much more transactional than, tension building. It's a lot of, let's get together and buy stocks, and then we're going to force this guy to sell his stocks to us so that we can manipulate things and make him lose market share and money and all this kind of stuff. And it's just not all that interesting to watch. I guess that's more near the end, but what's really weird is that they make it seem like getting millions upon millions of dollars is super, super easy for this guy. Frank, so in the early part of the movie, there's this weird scene about him at a party, and I think it's just meant to show that he's kind of reckless with his cash, that he doesn't really care about the fortune that he's been given.
Yeah, and then he finds out that, was it a friend that died?
I guess so. Yeah, he's looking for this person named Annalise at this massive party, like very crowded house, and I don't know why he's trying to find her necessarily.
Yeah.
But he breaks down this door to a room and finds her dead, and that sort of is the impetus for the next scene where this guy Morph is essentially his advisor or something of a guardian to him. He's the one who gives him the money from this benefactor, this unnamed benefactor, who basically says, you have to leave Europe. We don't want, whatever is going on with this lady, we don't want your name in the press because you're kind of a high-profile figure. You need to leave Europe. Here's a lump sum. We're cutting you off financially now and get out of the country. Mm-hmm. And they're using Annalise as this catalyst for this. But yeah, I don't know I don't know much beyond that. And I think that's sort of a recurring theme of this movie is that you have this narrator that gives a little bit of background information, but it's kind of like a children's book type of narration, or a shitty documentary.
Yeah, I wonder, because this is based off of a novel, it's just probably the narrator reading like a paragraph that was actually in the book. Like, now is blah-de-blah, and we're going over here. And then it'll be weird. Like, Frank, when Frank was a child, this and that.
Yeah, it's really weird, it's like 1 and 2 sentence things, like, and Frank decides to go back to Hong Kong to thank this guy for the gold transaction thing.
Yeah, and then it's like, why do we need that narration when we're about to literally see it? I don't know. I was like, why do you have to build that up?
I think part of it is sometimes he's bouncing across many, many locations in this movie. A lot of different countries. And a lot of it just does not seem motivated. And so sometimes the narration helps for that, where he's like, but before Frank decides to do this, he's going to return to his childhood home. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, but why? So, I mean, it explains that, okay, he's not progressing the story, he's going to go on a divergent path, or he's going to do this other thing that wasn't talked about in the dialogue. But there's really no real explanation as to why he's doing the things that the narrator is saying that he's doing. Or there's certain sentences where he says, and Frank wonders if he'll ever see her again. Talking about, like, the first major woman that he comes across in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's sort of our cue as an audience to say, oh yeah, she's gone. Like, don't, I know we're like 30 minutes in, but don't expect this character to come back. Uh-huh. Which is really weird. So there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in terms of the structure. And yeah, I think it's not just one book, actually. I saw it's 3 different books starring this character, Frank Cimballi. And I don't know if this covers just the first book or if it's supposed to be kind of like a combo trilogy, of all 3, and they're trying to put way too much into this.
Like a V.I. Warshawski, because that's like...
Yeah, were they going to make it a series, or were they trying to just kind of condense everything into a single movie package?
Yeah.
But there is a lot that happens in this, and don't get attached to characters or scenarios for too long, because they just...
They're
sort
gone.
Of like Millions.
They're
like
just
Millions.
like,
they're just sort of there for a sentence
and they go, and then you don't even know where they go.
Yeah. And I wanted some of them to come back. I thought that they were going to have a bigger part. Like, let's talk about Miriam Dabo's character, Sarah Walkins. So, when leaving Europe, Frank goes to Nairobi. Goes to Kenya. Just to get a fresh start. And the reason why he goes there is because he saw a billboard on the side of the road while going to the airport and said, I'm going to go to Kenya.
Yeah.
He goes there with no money. But we'll talk about that maybe in a second. But he meets this girl, or sees her at this hotel, tries to find her. Turns out she works and lives at the hotel. And they have an interaction and hit it off really well. And then, some other stuff happens and Frank starts to build his fortune again on his own. And he's off in Hong Kong for this other business transaction. And Sarah's there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why is she there? Did she know about this? Did Frank tell her about this? Like, is she part of the plot? Is she going to work against him?
I know that she's like a Bond girl. I was like, is this like a James Bond thing? Like, is she a spy?
Yeah, I mean, because they're trying to set up this intrigue thing with the whole, secret letter saying, oh, you're worth $50 to $60 million, but you only got $300,000, so you're getting robbed by somebody. You're being robbed by your parents' friends. So they set up this whole intrigue thing with the private detective and all this other stuff, and they present him as a very charming type of a person, like a James Bond, but no physical attributes in terms of, combat training or guns or whatever. None of that.
There's no action, really.
It's all mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
And power plays.
Yeah, not even till the end.
I mean, yeah, there's little parts, Yeah, there's little parts that go on, but I think what makes it difficult is that you don't see any sort of counter moves from the other side. Mm-hmm. So you see Frank building his wealth upon wealth by, I guess setting up the dominoes, but yeah, it's just not very satisfying in that way. But to sort of quickly go back to the whole Sarah point, the fact that she was in Hong Kong without any sort of explanation when she should have been in Kenya and, working at the hotel that she works at and just like magically there uninvited because he was surprised that she was there. Right? Yeah. So like, why is that not explained? And there's a lot of things that are like that where, you think that bigger things are going to happen than actually happen.
And he went to Nairobi on a whim. Mm-hmm. So it's like, did these people know that he was going to go there?
Yeah, how did he get the letter? That was the other thing. Who knew that he was there to give him that letter? Yeah, I was like, well, unless the person that he was speaking to that was like, hey, where are you going to go? And he's like, Nairobi or whatever. And so like trickled through the grapevine. Yeah, they were like, oh, he's going to Nairobi. But yeah, it must be. I was like, how did she, I mean, if she's already like sort of following him around, did she give him the letter? Like, I don't even know. Right. Because he just like randomly got the letter. Yeah, I wondered like maybe she was something of a plant or involved in some way. Maybe she sent the letter and, it's sort of like a situation in Millions where Billy Zane's dad's mistress was sort of playing both sides. Yeah. I thought maybe it was going to be something like that, but no. She's just there for eye candy here and there. I do appreciate that he wasn't like
sleeping around and
stuff. Like a Lothario type of character.
Yeah, me too.
He had what seemed like possibly a genuine connection to this girl. I don't know. It wasn't enough screen time to really know for sure, but it wasn't, a pure fling, right? Or like a
maybe it did happen, thing. But they didn't show it.
Yeah. But he wasn't bouncing to different women after that. I mean, there's only one other major woman character who comes in very late, like the last 15-20 minutes, who has a higher credit on the credits list, Anna Lupino, played by Anna Kanikis. But they don't really hook up romantically. No. So, unlike James Bond in that way, too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a lot of characters that I thought were going to be important because they're introduced early on and they're just not. Like Joaquim, the safari guy, when he arrives in Kenya. Okay. And he's like, I need to take you on a safari. And he's like, I have absolutely no money. I'm completely broke. Yeah. Which is true because he takes that $300,000 and gives it to a flower girl at the airport saying, send this to this person. Like, send this much worth of flowers to this person. So basically he's like starting from scratch for his own free will. I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know. I mean, it's partly to show he's like irresponsible with money, I guess. Or reckless with money at that time. That he doesn't care about it, but he does clearly at the end of this movie. I don't know. It was a weird situation. But he meets Joaquim and he's like, it would be a very bad idea to like refuse me. And then like he partners with Joaquim and it's like, I want to be your business partner. I can help you get clients because I'm like really good. I don't know. I thought he would like come into play somehow. I don't know. Like, why have those sequences?
All these people that he met along the way.
Unless
they just came and went. Except for maybe, the guy that he hired.
They're doormats, except for the PI, Mark Lavater.
Yeah, he's in this a lot, but it's like everyone else that he's come along the way for this, they just come and go.
But they spend, significant time with some of these characters, and it's weird that they're just gone out of nowhere.
Right. They don't resolve these relationships he has with these people, mostly. No. Not until, like, the very end with one person.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're basically stepping stones, I guess, to say, oh, I'm starting with nothing. I'm gonna work
Like, move
very
around.
smallly, you know, in small potatoes with this safari guy, get a couple bucks here and there, which will allow me to make my next bigger move and do all this other stuff. And then, like, some major thing happens, and I don't know how that even comes about. Like, they show him, like, with a plane full of gold bars that he's selling to somebody. They never explain
like where
this came from, how he got the connections to do this. But, you know, he had that, and now he has money, and now he's being invited to Hong Kong to see Mr. Hawk about some major $1 million deal in Geneva with gold. Like, okay.
Yeah, how is he... I don't know. It's like, how is he gonna sell gold? Like, how do you... Whatever. It's like, this is, like, we're just using other movies. This is like A Rage in Harlem, where they just had, like, a whole thing of gold they wanted to sell.
Yeah. I mean, that was part of a robbery that they established, at least early
but it's
on.
Like,
but, like, how
we never find out where did he get this. Like, who has gold bars lying around? Like,
and how does he know who to connect with
to get gold bars?
The gold bars, and, like, I don't know. Like, clearly it doesn't seem like it was one of Joaquim's things. So, there's steps missing there. And then, yeah, Mr. Hawk in Hong Kong, he's, you know, helping out with this weird deal. I don't know, like, Hawk will give him $2.5 million in order to carry out some sort of operation in Geneva where he's, like, transferring gold to a specific bank and doing whatever else. I don't know. And then he leverages that to do something else. And then the whole thing with Mr. Hawk never really I don't know. You know. He goes back to Mr. Hawk, according to the narrator, to, you know, thank him for the gold thing.
Yeah,
lands in a helicopter.
Why didn't the narrator just be like, oh, Frank got the gold from blah-de-blah, and now he's off to Hong Kong?
Yeah, like, yeah, if you're going to have a narrator, use him to fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, and don't just tell us what we're about to see. It's like, now Frank is going to go to Hong Kong. It's like, okay, we see that.
Yeah, it says Hong Kong on the bottom of the screen.
It said Hong Kong.
But I think what was really weird about the return to Hong Kong is that he's like, yeah, I'm going to thank Mr. Hawk. He lands in this helicopter at his place, goes out of the helicopter to thank him, sees them both dead.
Yeah.
They're like bloody and like dead, and he just like runs back to the helicopter. He's like, go, go, go. And like, that's end of scene. No explanation.
The way that one of them was dead had me laughing. He was hanging from his feet, but he was dead. And I was like, how did he die?
Yeah.
Like, was he just hanging? Did they torture him by hanging him from his feet? And then he was dangling, like...
I think there was blood on both of them, right? Yeah. So they were, like, probably cut up while he was, like, hanging. But
it's just, like, him dangling back and forth from his feet with, blood. I don't know, whatever. I don't know if he was, like, tortured hanging from his feet for X amount of hours.
I don't know who's responsible for that death. The narrator doesn't say.
Yeah, they don't...
They never mention it
What the hell happened there?
Like, was it, you know, this secret society that Frank is going after, or was it something else?
Yeah, they don't show I'm like, I was wondering, like, who would want to see this movie? Because they don't show any action. They don't show that scene of these guys getting killed.
It's the same people who would want to watch Millions. Like, there's business intrigue can be good. I
guess. Yeah, like a Wall... I know this is like a Wall Street type of a thing. But I was like... I don't know. I was just like, why don't they show stuff leading up to that? Even, like, at the end. I don't know, I keep talking about the end. But it's just like, even with the end, where it was finally, like, hardcore tension, I was like, oh my god, is something gonna happen?
Right? And then it just stops.
And then it ended. Then I was, you know, like, the same thing with Millions. I was wondering, was this, like, a TV movie for France or, like, Canada?
I don't think so. I think there was a TV version of it.
And it's like...
Because there was someone in the IMDb...
that, maybe?
Maybe we watched the TV version. I don't know. In the U.S., it got a PG-13 rating, so I guess that was probably granted, when the DVD was released, but in the credits there is someone listed in the uncredited, like they're not in the actual credits of the movie at the end, but on IMDb there's an uncredited person who says that she only appears in the TV version of it, but there's no notes about what the alternative version would look like or what was cut out, what scenes were added, so on and so forth. So it sounds like they might have added something for a TV version to even pad it out longer, which may have been great if we would have seen that. Tough to say which version we actually saw. When they had the brief love scene in there with, Sarah and Frank, it was basically just two heads on the screen, and that's all we could see.
And so I thought that was weird, and that's where I was thinking, are we watching a TV movie and they only want to show like shadows of two bodies like coming together or something?
Yeah, and that's one of the detriments of watching certain things on YouTube, is that maybe it is edited slightly, or maybe we did watch the TV version and that scene may be slightly different on the DVD. If anyone out there has experience, let us know.
Yeah, and then it's just like the opposite, like in Millions, there's like naked people all around. And that's why I don't know, I mean, it could just be,
Yeah, I would not expect nudity with the PG-13 rating, though, so...
Millions was R?
Millions was R.
Okay.
If it was rated at all. I mean, for sure, there's a lot of adult content in that.
Yes, just
drugs,
naked people. Well, I don't want to say naked people around. Just the nudity was there.
A lot. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
Here it's just confusing financial plot points, but yeah, he bounces from person to person. So he goes from Mr. Hawk to this person named the Turk, where he's trying to use the gold transaction from Mr. Hawk in order to buy this restaurant promissory note that the Turk owns. And at this point, like the PI has been giving him certain information, so he knows like some of the key players of who's involved of this whole situation. And so, he's basically trying to buy this. Frank is trying to buy this restaurant note in order to put one of these people out of business. And so and he uses his friend Ute as bait, who we get introduced to in that opening party scene. So I guess that's another reason for that scene to exist, is to also say, hey, I have this friend, because Ute is this woman, and the Turk really likes women, and that's like a weakness according to the narrator. And that whole scene was kind of weird, and I mean, I don't understand why some of those interactions happened. Just because Ute was present, it seemed like he was so enthralled with the fact that this woman was in the same room as him that he's basically telling Frank he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So that was really strange. And then, again, he's trying to sort of manipulate. He's basically telling the Turk that he should buy, gold against the dollar or something or other, because whatever is going to happen. And he knows that because of like whatever he did with Mr. Hawk and the banks, I guess. And that's being used to sort of like leverage and bankrupt the restaurant, so it has to be put up for like I said, there are moves that are happening here, but they're so transactional that it's kind of, I don't know, they're just not interesting.
Right.
Like maybe if you really had like a strong eye for finance,
if people
then maybe
are like
you'd
really
be like,
into
like this is really
good. Like finance drama. I don't know.
But for the layman, it's kind
of
like,
you're like, I
need X% of stock buybacks in order to leverage this to make this happen. Like, okay. Like,
I don't know this stuff, so someone would have to like explain it to me as if I was 5 years old.
I mean, you can, like Wolf of Wall Street is like, or Wall
like,
Street.
Yeah.
You can understand some of the tension of that because it's put into more common terms, or just situational things. This is, very
like an encyclopedia for finance people. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's not exactly like textbook type of dialogue necessarily, but it's not,
like if you don't know anything about finance or Wall Street or stocks or whatever, You're just sitting there like, okay, like I don't know.
It's like,
that's how
this sounds important.
Yeah, but I don't even know what they're saying because I don't know any of these words that are put together.
So, that all happens.
How come the narrator didn't just say, "Oh, by the way, this means this"? I don't know.
Right, like stop the movie, put up like a child's diagram of like, here's how money works,
kind of like,
you know. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, kind of like, okay, yeah. So this, I mean, if we were watching, like, The Big Short, and it was something like, I know that's, like, a comedy drama. This is just, like, straight up.
Yeah, but Adam McKay is not afraid to just sort of stop the narrative to explain key concepts to you in The Big Short.
Right.
Which is what this movie kind of needs at a couple different times.
I needed that.
Yeah.
Something like The Big Short.
Sort of chime in. But yeah, again, moving from one person to another, like the Turk comes into play later on. He's one of the more recurring characters, which is odd, honestly. And then he's like makes this big deal how he wants to meet this guy Robert Zara in the Bahamas, who's a very, very dangerous man apparently. And for some reason, when we meet him, he's wearing a neck brace that's completely unexplained. This Robert Zara...
The ailments in these movies had me cracking up. I don't know.
It's weird. Okay. Yeah, the neck brace is never explained, but basically Frank wants Zara to, I don't know.
Me neither.
He wants him
I don't know what's going on.
He wants him to do something in order to, like, bankrupt 2 more people. And what Robert Zara instead does is he basically, like, creates a political coup in order to privatize those businesses so they're in control of the government. So like that's the way that it's done in the Bahamas or whatever, I guess, is like this Zara guy like creates this political coup and basically takes over these businesses from these other people. So it's weird political intrigue, but it happens like in a snap. It happens in like a news clip. We don't get to see Robert Zara put pressure on anybody. We don't see any of this stuff. We just hear about the end result. Mm-hmm. And then from there he goes to another person and like uses the Turk to deal with this Florida condo deal, and these 2 guys, Fazali and Aziz, have like $250 million worth of $250 million worth of buildings that they're going to want to buy and try to leverage the condo market in Florida. So I mean, like, every step is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and involving new people, new characters, and the cast list is massive in this thing. And then meanwhile, the private eye is finding some documents that are signed by, I think it's Martin Yall. I think we learn later, but it's really tough to tell because you can't see you can't tell whose signature it is on the thing. Mm-hmm. But basically, Nazi documents signed by one of these people.
Yes, and that's where I was like, oh, we're going somewhere, but then it doesn't go anywhere.
I mean, it comes up in the end, the Nazi thing. That's sort of like how he kind of unravels.
I mean, maybe this was meant to be, like, there was a sequel that was meant to happen.
Maybe.
Because the way it just ends...
But I don't know who else you would go after
finding that
the end of this is done.
Yeah.
Because Frank basically gets what he wants, it seems, and then he's good. I don't know.
He's like, all right, well, this all happened, and I'm rich again. I have the monies.
And that's another weird thing. It's like, obviously, again, it's not about the money for him, but it kind of is, because he's making millions upon millions of dollars out of nowhere, like really easily. But his goal is not to just amass this massive fortune. It's to take everything away from the people who robbed his father. Mm-hmm. That's basically what it is. Because his dad died at a young age. His mother died at birth.
Yeah, so he was 6 years old.
And so...
when his father died.
And he blames these people for it, but we see the flashback. And his father is talking to somebody on the phone, and then like shortly after has a heart attack. Or like immediately after has a heart attack. So... And whatever he heard on the phone might have been disturbing, but they didn't like physically have anything to do with this.
Like death. Whatever news he got over the phone just stressed him out so much that it caused him to have a heart attack. But him as a 6-year-old, he's looking at his father through like a crack in a door, like yelling on the phone or whatever, and then he sees his father have this quick heart attack and fall to the floor. Yeah. I mean, I was laughing during that part because just the acting for that was hilarious. And then it was like this dubbed over voice for this 6-year-old kid that sounded like a young woman going, "Daddy, are you okay?" Yeah. And then that was it.
Yeah, Daddy, wake up or something like that.
Yeah. And then, yeah, the whole part, and then he's at his, like, old family, like, his old home, his family's home or whatever.
Which is really strange, at least at the beginning. They do explain it later, because, like, nobody bought this house. Like, the landscaping is, like, up to date.
Fine, yeah.
All of the stuff is inside, and this guy never went back.
It's been around for 25-ish years.
He never went back. He didn't decide to just live there himself at some point. Like, why?
Well,
why not?
I don't know.
If all the furnishing and books and everything is there, like, why not just fucking live there?
That's what. Well, who raised him after that? Did they say? Was it the F. Murray Abraham, Will Scarlet? But then
no, because he was supposed to be dead.
He's supposed to be dead. That's why I was like, who?
Like, Morph is like his advisor type of person, but I don't know who actually like physically raised him.
Okay. I don't know. That's, I don't know, whatever. And then I was like, where did he go after his father died? He has no family.
Yeah,
and it just seems he has like
he
all
had access to money.
Yeah, but a 7-year-old can't like start. You know,
but like no aunts,
raising
uncles,
themselves up,
no grandparents or anybody in this like financially.
It's like he relied on these friends of his father,
right? And like, aren't there like wills? Wouldn't the house have been like willed to him? I don't know.
I mean,
there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't quite make sense in this, but there's a lot of overly technical stuff, and then a lot of things that just don't seem like they would make sense even if they were explained to you. Anyway, he has an assload of money now, but he doesn't care. He wants to like ruin these people who killed his father by talking to him, and triggering the heart attack, I guess. But also possibly the robbery. I don't think we ever really know who sends the letter either. The private eye says that it's like someone like middle-aged woman because of like the perfume and like the way the typing was done.
But that could have been I don't know.
I got
like Sarah Wilkins doing that.
I got the impression that it was one of F. Murray Abraham's nurses, one of Will Scarlet's nurses.
Oh.
Like on behalf of Will. Sort of like trying to make amends. Because when he arrived at Will Scarlet's place, because he finds out that Will Scarlet actually is alive, very, shortly after this whole thing with the condo thing, one of the nurses just kind of like stands and stares at him. And I got the impression they're trying to say that this was the person who contacted him. But I don't know for sure. Another, untied...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Present.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Will Scarlet looks weird.
we go to Will Scarlet's house, and what was wrong with him?
I don't know. They don't explain. Like, okay, he's supposed to be dead, but he's not. But he's definitely very close to death. Like, he apparently, like, faked his own death for a specific reason and went reclusive into this Canadian lake house, which looks really cool.
Yeah.
I like the house. But he's, like, sitting there in a wheelchair in
like
a glass case.
And then I was like, what is he, Bubble Boy? Is he, like, allergic to, like, air and everything?
I don't know, but his, like, skin has, like, leopard spots, basically.
Yeah, he looks like he has leprosy. I have no idea. His skin is all grayed, but he's got, like, pock marks or whatever all over his body.
Yeah, like, someone took, like, a magic marker of black, like, painted his whole body white, and then took a magic marker and just sort of like sketched on his face. And that's his disease.
But they don't even say what he has.
No. I've never... like, nothing in real life
and then
that
his
I know
interaction
of
with Will Scarlet was so weird. This is where I was like, this is getting, like, absurd. I don't even know.
There are some very absurd moments. Not just
and then,
yeah.
Yeah, they make this plan, and Will Scarlet can't touch. That's why I was like, he's Bubble Boy, because he can't like touch or do anything.
And apparently, he smells awful. Like
Yeah, but then I mean, how are these? I don't know. How are these nurses taking care of him or whatever? I don't know. Like 24-hour care.
He has a whole team. But they make amends. Will, I guess, had betrayed him and was working with it. We should probably mention Martin Yall is like the head of the corporation, played by Christopher Plummer. He's, like the head of the quote-unquote evil organization that stole from the dad and whatever. He's Morph's boss, and Will Scarlet used to work with him, and he feels bad about it. We find out that Will Scarlet was the benefactor all along, which is also probably a reason why he wrote the letter with the help of his nurses. And they make amends, and they they put together this plan to take down Martin Yall. Mm-hmm. And then they do an air handshake to commemorate the deal.
I was like, is this real? Like, what is happening?
It seems like something that should be like in a comedy.
Yeah, I was like, is this meant to be serious? Because I am cracking up. I don't know. like it's supposed to be like a heart-to-heart between these two men.
Yep.
But we're cracking up over this air handshake. It lasted too long. I don't know. They could have just given like knowing glances or like nodded heads and be like, okay, we are in this deal.
I'm trying to think of like what would be better. Like, okay, like you could put like his hand on the glass. Like, no,
like they touch hands through from the glass.
Also cheesy and weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I mean, they're not
thumbs up. Like, yeah, man, let's do this shit.
I don't know.
But yeah, I know. I just nod or just cut the scene. Like, you don't need to have air handshake.
Or just nod at each other. Like, yeah, we are now in agreement.
And say, okay, let's do this. End scene.
He'll be like, okay, and then I'm gone.
Oh, air handshake.
If there's like a GIF of that,
I doubt it. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to find like anything for this movie.
Yeah, it is tough because one, it's just called Money.
Right. You Google
if
Money
you go on
1991.
IMDb, you have to add like Money 1991 in order to find it.
Yeah.
It's like third down the list because there's other movies that have the word money in the title, including other people's money, which I think this is better than.
Yeah, I would watch this over. But I mean, I still find I was like more entertained by Millions than this.
Yeah, I understand that for sure, because that had something. I don't know. It had the other parts of the James Bond equation, I think.
Yeah, this I was like, I am beyond confused on what's going on, and then the stuff that I was trying to pay attention to and really understand was making me laugh, and then when it got like good. It ended.
Yeah. I'll say that I think the acting is stronger in this than in Millions, though. I liked Eric Stoltz's character. I like his performance. I think he is quite charming in this. Christopher Plummer is, he can play anything, right? So he's good as a villain.
And F. Murray Abraham as Will Scarlet. Will Scarlet, isn't that like that's a Robin Hood?
Robin Hood,
isn't it?
I don't know.
There's someone in Robin Hood. Yeah, there is a Will Scarlet in Robin Hood.
Oh, I bet you that's intentional then. Because he's robbing from the rich guy and giving to the poor Eric Stoltz with his
I was thinking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, because it's Will Scarlet O'Hara.
Okay.
But I know there's a Will Scarlet. But I was like, is he named Will Scarlet for a reason?
It could be to sort of indicate that. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Robin Hood Men in Tights. What am I thinking? Prince of Thieves is what we're going to be watching at some point. That's Christian Slater is Will Scarlet in there. I remember that.
Okay.
But I was thinking...
So Will Scarlet O'Hara was from Men in
Tights.
That's how long it's been since I watched Robin Hood as well. I did not catch it in that era
I was thinking of Men in Tights, but then I said Prince of Thieves. And I'm like, no, we're going to be watching Prince of Thieves at some point. But that's a serious movie. And that's Christian Slater. I know that.
And no O'Hara at the end.
There's no O'Hara. The Will Scarlet O'Hara is, you know,
Is
a play on words or names to be funny in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Okay. I don't know. I was like, wait a second. That's not Prince of Thieves.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, let's quickly glance through the last arc because it's really not super interesting. Basically, a bunch of bankers team up with them, including this other woman, Anna, who's like really high on the credits list, but you know shows up at the last 15 minutes of the movie, working on stock buybacks and like trying to basically take down the corporation by buying a whole bunch of stock and then like forcing the original owners to buy them at a higher price and basically making them bankrupt or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. That's the other weird part about that is that this PI character, Mark, tells Frank that there's a traitor within his ranks, but I don't think did we ever learn who the traitor was?
No, I didn't
They
learn
made it
anything
seem like...
from this movie.
That's fair. They're making it seem like one of the three bankers was like working against him secretly, but like I don't. Everything worked fine. I don't know, like whatever. There's a whole bunch of like industry whatever bullshit, and then basically stuff starts crashing down on Martin Y'all. The Nazi stuff comes into play, and they like remove him from the company or some shit. And like he's in this big boardroom meeting with a whole bunch of people, and that's when they basically say, you know, you're done for because all this Nazi work came to light. Morph evidently was a SS officer and was smuggled out of the country to work with y'all, and like he's been harboring a criminal because of that. And so I don't know. And then at some point they just let him walk out of the boardroom alone, and Frank is there to talk to him, and he's like, oh, I should have known it was you're doing, Frank. I don't know. Like, of course he would have known it was his doing because you said earlier in the movie that you knew it was his doing. But like, no one like goes after him. Like, you're basically like accusing him of fraud and crimes and all this other stuff and embezzlement and all these other things that are going on, and you just like let him walk away. And like you have this long conversation with Frank in the hallway, and nobody from that boardroom comes out to like come after you ever.
Well, not until they meet up in that church or whatever, where they were.
It was just outside of the boardroom. What?
Oh,
like,
it looked like
it was just like a fancy ass
a
fancy ass building.
Okay, it looked like because it was just like elaborately designed.
Yeah, but I mean that's probably
it was a church.
Yeah, that's probably just Europe or whatever. That was Geneva, I think, right?
Oh, okay.
Most likely. But yeah, Frank and y'all have this long conversation. And then it's a really stupid, unsatisfying ending where...
Yeah, Martin pulls out a gun, and I'm like, oh my god, something's gonna happen now. But then you see them, like, have a disagreement, and Frank just walks away, and as Frank is walking away, you hear a gun shoot. So you were assuming that Martin killed himself?
I think so. And then we see Frank take a gun and drop it on the ground because apparently his intention was to possibly also kill him. But he didn't have to, so he just drops the gun on the ground and walks away in the end.
Yeah, that's it. And I was like, but wait, I need to know more, but I don't know.
Yeah. I honestly, in that scene, the music did a lot of the heavy lifting. Like, the dialogue wasn't all that intriguing, and I don't remember a damn word of what was said.
Yeah, but that's like tense music, and we know that's Ennio Morricone
did the music in this, and there's like one recurring theme that's repeated, a lot, that I liked a lot. It's fun. It's like 60s cop funky procedural music. So that recurring theme was good, and then in this scene and certain key scenes, the music does a lot of the heavy lifting that the dialogue can't handle. But I don't know. This is such a weird one. It's all over the place. And I think it's because they're probably just trying to... I don't know how long the book was, but I think they're just trying to cram way too much into this thing.
Yeah, if it's based off of the 3 books that this guy wrote, then...
Yeah. I mean, because, like I said, at the ending, like, he is basically taking down all of them. Yeah. Including the head of the organization. So where could you go from there? So I assume it's all 3. We go into cast and crew. It's an adventure. Stephen Hilliard Stern, because there's no awards to be mentioned in this one. What a surprise. Stephen Hilliard Stern, also credited mostly as Stephen H. Stern, Emmy-nominated producer for an episode of Biography, that long-running series. He's also done the Black Fox TV movie series starring Christopher Reeves and Tony Todd.
Okay.
Which I've never heard of, but that sounds like an intriguing pairing. He also did a lot of TV movies like Breaking the Surface, the Greg Louganis story, Murder in Space, which I have on VHS if you ever want to watch it. Camp Grizzly. He also directed Mazes and Monsters, which is notorious for being the Tom Hanks starring Dungeons and Dragons, warning movie from like the early 1980s. Like one of Tom Hanks's, if not his very first role, one of his very first acting roles. He directed that. The two writers, there's really no other credits. These are the only credits. But Larry Pederson has a self-written bio on IMDb that says he has completed 18 different feature screenplays. Maybe just none of them have been produced, or he's just not credited on any of them. Eric Stoltz as Frank Cimballi. He is a Emmy-nominated director for My Horrible Year, actually a daytime Emmy. Golden Globe nominee for his work in The Mask, not the Jim Carrey one, the earlier one. Spirit nominated for Pulp Fiction, which is kind of a surprise to see.
The one that he was in?
Yeah, he's Golden Globe nominated for Mask, the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant he directed it.
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
The only directing nomination is the Daytime Emmy for My Horrible Year, the children's program.
Okay, yeah.
He's also Tony nominated for a production of Our Town. He will be in another 1991 movie that's not on our list, A Woman at War. He's also been in stuff like Some Kind of Wonderful, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Fly 2, Surf 2, Anaconda, Chicago Hope, Rules of Attraction. He also does a lot of TV directing. He's done a lot of episodes of Madam Secretary, Glee, and Bull. So he's getting into the directing side of things right now. Miriam Dabo, who played Sarah Walkins, was credited as a big name on the box art there.
Yeah, she was in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, she wasn't in it all that long, but I'm assuming it's because she was a Bond girl. She was
right.
Cara Milovy, I don't know. In The Living Daylights, the Timothy Dalton Bond, one of the Dalton Bonds. She's also going to be in 1991's Immortal Sins, so we'll see her there. She's also been in Something Is Out There, Savage Hearts, An American Affair, Time Lock, and also Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death, which I think is just a fun title. The person who played the PI, Mark Lavater, is Bruno Kremer, who is a very well-known actor in France. A lot of these actors are from France, and so we're not going to go over a whole lot of them because I don't know what's come over here and what's not. That's the tough part with the foreign movies. But he's been in stuff like Is Paris Burning? He's been in Sorcerer, many projects since the 1950s. He's been in 54 TV movies as his character Maigret. I don't know how to pronounce it. But, a very, very well-known person over there. Mario Adorf played the Turk. He is a Bambi Award Lifetime Achievement Award winner in Germany. That's like one of their higher awards in that country, and he's been active since the 1950s, so he's very well-known in that country, just not so much to us. F. Murray Abraham, Golden Globe and Oscar winner for Amadeus. Emmy nominated for Homeland. He's currently being seen on Moon Knight, the TV series on Disney+. Grand Budapest Hotel, Mimic, a whole bunch of other stuff. We can talk more about his credits later because he's going to be in 3 more 1991 movies, Mobsters, Eye of the Widow, and By the Sword. Christopher Plummer is also going to be in a whole lot of 1991 movies that we haven't seen yet. Firehead, Young Catherine, with Anna Kanikis, who played Anna Lupino. Rockadoodle, he's in Rockadoodle, and also The First Circle. He's an Oscar winner for Beginners, nominated for The Last Station and All the Money in the World. So yeah, we'll get into him more later as well. And then I also want to mention, brief pausing on the credits of my last little mention here. This guy named Eric Richter, he was in the boardroom meeting, and we saw him in a couple scenes. He played by Arthur Grosser. He kind of looked like Donald Sutherland to me.
Okay.
I don't know if you kind of remember that guy. He had glasses, and he was sort of like the accountant type guy. He's been acting since the early 1970s. He's done some voices for like the Assassin's Creed games, and you know, just a bunch of whole little bit parts. This is probably one of his bigger roles on the non-voice acting side. But he's also a professor of physical chemistry in Montreal, as well as an actor. And he's also an author of cookbooks about culinary alchemy. So he's got a nice little wide range of talents there. And he could go as a Donald Sutherland impersonator if you wanted to, in my opinion. And I'll let you talk about the author as we get into the next spot. That's all I have for cast and crew. We can go on to true crime and pop culture.
Yeah. So this movie was released the same day as Delicatessen, which was April 17th, 1991, which was a Wednesday. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about that happened, I don't even think anything happened on that day, but, you know, TV and music-wise is going to be the same, except I'm going to talk about the last 5.
Yeah, we talked about the
we did
top
the top
5
we did
on
the top
Delicatessen
5
week.
on the Billboard, but I'll do the last 5. But first, so I have 2 crimes. So I looked up what was going on in France in April 1991, and I found an article. It was even on the Chicago Tribune. And I mean, it was kind of hard to find, you know, English articles, even about, you know, the author too.
Yeah.
But
Didn't have a lot of crossover.
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot, but I found a couple things. So in this article that was for the Tribune, it was November of 1991, and starting in April 1991, there was a infected blood scandal that happened in France.
Okay.
So France's infected blood scandal began April 1991 when a doctor and journalist, Anne-Marie Casteret, published an article in the weekly magazine called L'Avènement du Jeudi, which is like the Thursday event, proving that the National Center of Blood Transfusion knowingly distributed blood products contaminated with HIV to hemophiliacs in 1984 and 1985, causing a multinational outbreak of HIV and hepatitis C. It estimated that 6,000 to 10,000 hemophiliacs were infected in the U.S. alone. In France, it was 4,700 people were contaminated and over 300 died. Other impacted countries included Canada, Iran, Iraq, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Portugal, and the UK. And there was a loss. The background on this is like interesting. And on January of 1985, a multinational healthcare company of Abbott Labs sought authorization to sell equipment needed for blood testing. And the response to the demand was delayed as the government was waiting for a rival French test to be released. So they continued to use this old unheated product in 1985 while the heated stock was available.
I'm not sure what the difference is between heated and non-heated.
Right. Me neither.
It's also like, that's a lot of people. So, I mean,
right.
I don't know anything about how the blood transmission stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know it crossed borders either.
No, me
assumed
neither.
that it would just sort of stay in the country. But like, do they just pool all the blood in like a giant like vat or something like that? That's how it got.
I looked further into this, and in 1999, the former socialist Prime Minister Laurent Fabius and former Social Affairs Minister Georgina Dufoy and former Health Minister Edmund Hervé, I think, were charged with manslaughter, and the only one that was found guilty was Edmund Hervé, but he received no sentence. The other 2 were acquitted. Dr. M. Goretta, I don't know any of these people, but the director of National Blood Center was sentenced to 4 years in prison and became known as the symbol of blood scandal among the French. And after all this, the blood scandal, neither scientists nor governors were fully trusted. Measures have been taken in order to bring back public trust, such as forcing regulators to replace a consensus model of making decisions with a new model named Deliberately Transparent One in Europe. And this new model included new ingredients to encourage a greater public participation in policy-making decisions. It requires regulators to be more transparent and also to take more precautionary measures in European countries.
I never heard any of that stuff.
Me neither.
That's amazing that hasn't.
There was a blood scandal
that crossed many countries.
Oh,
and
yeah.
has affected a lot. I'm shocked.
And then...
That's a documentary I would want to watch.
Right. Or, yeah. I mean, I don't know why no one, like... It hasn't been spoken about since.
Well, I mean, probably in France quite a
Maybe.
bit, since that's where
like
it originated.
here, they probably don't bring it up.
But yeah,
even though
it
the
affected
majority
the
of the people that were infected were like here in the U.S. It
Yeah.
was like. So then now I'm moving on to the author of the book Money. His name is Paul-loup Solitzer.
He also has a small role as Mendo in the movie as well. He does make a cameo appearance.
Okay. So, okay, just to get a little background on him, he was a French financier, and then he became an author, but when he turned 17, he was already a self-made millionaire. And he used his financial experience and knowledge to write these books, and then, related to the business world, and he wrote, a lot of novels.
It almost sounded like a little bit of this story was autobiographical because his father died when he was 10.
Yeah, because he's a self-made millionaire.
So like he has lost his father at a young age and very young millionaire, CEO by 21, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and then later on, I found like 3 or 4 articles, but I think I just pulled the most recent one because there was a lot about this incident, I guess. And he also did comics.
Did he do the comics, or were they just based off of his stuff?
Okay, so 3 of his novels were adapted into comics. So, and there was... It was the Green Knight, so maybe that's what I was... the Green King. So those became comics, so maybe I got that confused. So.
Or maybe that trilogy is called, like, Money, Cash, Fortune, maybe that's called, like, the Green King. It's like,
like those 3 books compiled into this.
The Green King trilogy or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe. So I'm just moving into his legal affairs, and this is an article that was in April 2009 from France24.com. It's judgment date set for an Angola arms trafficking trial. And in October 2008, the Angola Gate trial commenced in Paris, in which Solitzer was indicted. By the decision of the correctional tribunal, he was condemned for misuse of corporate assets and given 15 months in prison with a fine of 100,000 euros, which is what, like $120,000? I don't even know.
Yeah, nothing for him.
This conviction led to his exclusion from the National Order of Merit in November 2012. In 2009, he published Angola Gate, the Chronicles of a State Scandal, which had been written day by day during the process from October 2008 to March 2009.
So he wrote a book about his own trial.
Trafficking, of weapons.
Yeah, so illegal sale of weapons, right?
Right, it was during the 90s, and there was like 42 defendants that included him.
Okay.
So it was, there's a lot of these people, I don't know any of these people. The son of late President Francois Mitterrand, Jean-Christophe, served as an African advisor to his father. He faces 1 year in jail for allegedly accepting millions of euros in consulate fees on the arms and deals between 1993 and 1998. And somehow, I don't know how paul-loup got into this, and prosecutors say millions of dollars were skimmed off to bribe senior French and Angolan figures, including President Jose Eduardo dos Santos. The arms sales began with Socialist Mitterrand was president in 1993, but continued until 1998, 3 years after conservative Jacques Chirac's election. So the arsenal was 420 tanks, 150,000 shells, 170,000 anti-personnel mines, 12 helicopters, and 6 warships, shored up Dos Santos' regime during its vicious bush war against rebels.
So yeah, the questions we have about where did this helicopter full of gold come from? It's like don't worry about it. It's just from, war criminals in another country. Don't worry about it.
Right. Okay, and then moving on to the Billboard 100, the bottom 5. Number 100 is The First Time by Surface. This has been in the top 5. It's been on the charts for 25 weeks, and it was number 1 at some point, like earlier in the year, because I remember we talked about this song, and I know this song, and we put it on the website before. Yeah. Number 99, which amused me, it was Deep, Deep Trouble, the Simpsons song. That was 6 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 69.
It's amazing that an album based off of like the first year of a cartoon got such popularity. And across, not just Do the Bartman, but like another song from that.
Right, because then there was like, wasn't the Bartman like top 5 in the UK?
Something like that, yeah.
So it's just, all around the world.
I listened to that cassette on the bus rides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And number 98 is Funk Boutique by the CoverGirls. They are just another freestyle girl group from the late 80s, early 90s. They have other songs like Show Me, but I don't really know if you know who they are.
No.
And number 97 is If You Needed Somebody by Bad Company. And that was 24 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 16. That song is just like a typical whatever song. I don't know. And number 96 is High Wire by the Rolling Stones, and I've never heard this song, but that was 7 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 57.
Yeah, it's not
a well-known song. It was like on one of their albums from the early 90s. It was kind of like when everything, like, I mean, they've been popular for like 70 years. I have no idea
at this point.
So I mean, by the time in the 1990s, it was just like what another
just extra
like, random song that was on the radio for like a few weeks, and then it went away.
Something to use to schedule more tour dates.
Yeah.
All right, so on to rankings and ratings we go. On your 1 to 5 star scale, where are you going to put money?
I'm gonna give this a 1.
Oh, okay.
Why did you think I was gonna do higher?
I thought you were gonna do it too. I thought.
I don't know. I mean, I think I gave Millions a 1, and this is worse than Millions.
Okay.
to me, I don't know.
Oh yeah, like I said, there's parts of this that are worse than Millions, and there's parts of Millions that are worse than this. I think the filmmaking is stronger in this. I think the acting is decent in this, but different vibes of basically the same type of content. On my 0 to 4 star scale, I'm probably gonna say like 1.5. I really didn't hate it at all, but it was a little bit too confusing and too haphazard. Like the structure was just everywhere. I wanted more callbacks. I wanted more characters to like enter the fray. Every movie is worth watching once. Would you watch this again?
No.
Over other people's money, yes. Over millions,
No.
Flip a coin for me. No, I mean, yeah, there's going to be better type of movies like this. Yeah, this is not ideal. So, it's not terrible. At least I don't think so. I think you think it's probably terrible.
I mean, the parts that were interesting to me were the parts that, like, were funny. I don't know.
Which are not many.
They're not meant to be funny. And then the ending. But then it ended weird.
I liked when he actually tried to connect with different people. He had a couple scenes with the Turk where he's actually having conversations with them. I liked the scenes with him and Sarah. I liked a couple of the scenes with him, the scene with him and Will, where they're, where he's connecting as a person. And that's very few and far between. So, yeah, you can probably skip a second viewing on this. If you out there do want to watch Money, as of this recording in March 2022, it's available on DVD or YouTube. As always, check your local listings. As for us, you can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. It does help us out a lot. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies, along with show notes and more. Next week, to end off April showers, we got Rolling Thunder, which is available on the Surf Network and maybe VHS. We will see you then.